What happens when you fall out of love with the mechanics of your industry, but you're not ready to walk away from your creative calling? This week on the Creative Genius podcast, Gail Doby sits down for a special, deep dive conversation with multiple-time guest Lisa Kahn, the visionary founder of Lisa Kahn Designs. In this raw and moving episode, Lisa tracks her 12-year journey with Gail, from the paralyzing cash crunch that she reversed with a simple exercise in radical gratitude, to a recent profound realization about her own past trauma. Lisa shares how she evolved her signature design philosophy of sanctuary from a place of personal turmoil into a globally recognized business model. Plus, she reveals her next massive chapter. Listen on to hear all about it.
Welcome to the Creative Genius podcast, Lisa. This is number 3
Thank
for us.
you.
We've done
I
two
know.
others before. Yes.
I have loved both, so honored to be back.
It's great to have you back. And it's so interesting because I looked back at your records to see when you and I met, and it was January 20th, 2014.
How about that? It's been a hot minute.
Crazy. A hot minute. Hot 12 minutes.
Yeah,
12-year minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I thought we would just kind of meander down a path today. So we'll see where this
Okay.
path takes us. And I'd
Great.
love for you to just take it where you'd like to. So let's start first with how you got into design.
Well, I actually originally got into design because honestly, I grew up in a family business and my mom is and was a designer. And so, it was a very natural thing for me to do. Design was very much part of my household. It was what I did on spring breaks. It was what I did on summer vacations. We really all worked as a family. There were 3 kids in my family. And so all 5 of us would climb in the car during summers and drive to the business and all work there because it was also a retail store, and be involved with all of that. So yeah, it was just a very natural thing for me to do. It was not actually what I thought I wanted to do. My mom said to me, Lisa, you've got a knack for this. You really should follow design and do it. And I'm like, no way. This was in Northwest Ohio. Everything was on such tight budgets and everything was at that point, this was a long time ago. So Waverly was a division of Schumacher and they put out these wallpaper books that had like 12 things that all matched with borders and fabrics and everything. And that's what you did for everybody. And I just thought to myself, if I have to be working under these Waverly books for the rest of my life, I just don't think I have the fortitude. But I just hadn't really been exposed. And so when I went to college and ended up changing my major from business to design, because I just realized at some point that I really needed that hands-on creative outlet every single day, my life went in directions I couldn't have imagined. I ended up taking a job for Lutron Electronics as their corporate interior designer right out of school, which took me away from Ohio to Pennsylvania. And then I got married there and, ended up moving to Florida and really getting into design then. And that was when I really saw what design could be. Because when you have bigger budgets, bigger projects, bigger contacts, there is a world out there that I just had no exposure to. And that's when I really fell in love with our profession. It really is just truly what I'm meant to be doing.
It's a natural for you. I look at all of your board behind, all the inspiration, all the things you have behind you. And I just look at and I just think about how it connects to all the projects I've seen of yours and that through line that you have of the peaceful, the serenity, all of the things that are so important to you. So it's really cool to see that because that is authentically you. And I know you and I've had a few conversations about being authentic to your brand, right?
Exactly.
Just a
Pivotal
few.
one scale. Life
Those were some
changing.
fun ones.
Yes.
Well, it was better than the day when you said this was like, what was a near-death experience?
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
That goes back
So
a few
good.
years.
It
Oh
does.
my
Gail,
gosh.
you have helped me transform my life more than once. So I have to thank you for that.
Well, I hope it's in a positive way.
Oh, it is.
Oh gosh. So, all right. So you went to Lutron, you got married, you moved to
Yeah,
Florida, you
I
had
did.
kids, you
Hmm.
found that this was your passion. This is all great. It's
Yep.
wonderful. And then what happened?
And then after I had done a bunch of amazing projects, we had really, grown the firm, I just found myself really burned out. And I couldn't figure out why. I just really thought I fell out of love with design. I thought that I didn't want to do this anymore. I explored all kinds of things. I explored what would happen if I became a sales rep. I've known lots of designers who've gone and done that. I looked at what would happen if I left the field of actually designing and went into education, because I love teaching and I love young people and I would love to inspire, the next generation of designers. But when I looked into that and met with one of the universities, I realized that, I don't know that the world of academia is quite ready for Lisa Kahn. So that was not really a great fit. And the more that I looked around, I just felt like I was thwarted at every turn. And it was actually around that time that one of my design colleagues recommended that I call you. And so you and I had a conversation. You were on the way somewhere. I don't remember what it was. You were doing something amazing, I'm sure. And as I was telling you how burned out I was and how I was just really thinking about how I could move into a different sector of the industry and what else I could do, you suggested really something that changed my life in that moment. And you said, I don't actually think it's the industry that's burning you out, Lisa. I think it's the way you're working in the industry. And that really caught me up short. And I thought, what on earth could she mean? But yet it resonated with me. And I, at that point, scheduled a time for us to get together and really delve into my business, because I realized that you really could be right. And I had never had anybody really look into, the nooks and crannies of my business, look at the way that I was working, building my team, structuring things. I had just never had anyone do that before. And so working at that with you, I realized you were right. And it really was the way that I was working. And so by making some changes, by making some strategic hires, by reworking the way I spent my time and the things that I was focusing on, delegating things that really were not my joy, really allowing other people to have the freedom to do their job and really perform for me, and not being micromanaging was another one. I mean, there were just so many things that I was doing that were really making me be unhappy. And it really wasn't the actual design itself. And truly leaving it, I think I would miss it even today.
That's so good to hear, because we have, of course, known each other for a very long time. And I've seen you go through a lot of ups and downs with this. And even
Yeah.
after that time, you had some other ups and downs. And why don't you share one or two of those that were pivotal for you in terms of really understanding who you
Well,
were and maybe how you were in the business?
I think that we have been through all kinds of ups and downs. I mean, we've just been through ups and downs within the last few months. I think it's really part of being an entrepreneur. It's part of owning a business. And what's so interesting to me is I feel like when we start businesses and we're young, we're hungry, we have all these big ideas, these dreams, we have absolutely no idea what we're in for, in truth. And as designers, no one truly teaches us, unless we get a business degree, how to read financials, how to hire people, how to structure contracts, how to negotiate. Nobody teaches us how to market. Nobody teaches us how to really build systems that allow us to visualize our work and have our teams be productive and everybody, working together with a really good, solid culture. And that is something that really has helped me weather the storms, is having a contact like you, and like some of my other design colleagues that I call on, when times are hard and I need guidance and advice and, other suggestions and points of view. But when I think about, just for example, I remember back in, this is maybe mid, like 2009, 2010. This is even before I met you. I was going through a time of a cash crunch that was so profound. I wasn't even sure how I was going to make my next payroll. It was just one of those times I was laying awake at night. I was just sick with worry about all of it. I was looking at my account balance going down, and, one of my clients fired us and we had to return, a big design deposit. And as I was living through that time, and I thought to myself, what is the opposite of how I'm feeling right now? Like, I'm just feeling so full of fear and anxiety and unhappiness. What is the opposite of that? And I decided at the time it was gratitude. And so what might that look like? And how could I express some gratitude, and would that help me turn things around? And it's funny because I took my credit card, because very little cash at the moment, and I went and I bought 50 cards at the local store, blank cards, and I made a list of 50 people that had really impacted me over the last year. And I just really thought about that. I stepped out of that place of fear and I thought, all right, what do I appreciate about this person? I didn't ask for anything, and I just wrote each one of them a note, a thank you love note, a little love letter. And this is why I love you. Thank you for everything that you've done for me. Know that you are on my heart. And if you ever need me, call on me. And I started sending these notes. I decided I would send them all out by like the middle of November. And as I was writing them, I will tell you that in the beginning, I did not feel thankful. I didn't feel gratitude, even to the people that I was writing to, because I was so still kind of caught up. And it's funny though, because as I mailed the first few, and then I wrote a few more, and then I wrote a few more, I started feeling my spirit lift. Like I just felt like, I really am grateful for all these people. And so the last ones I wrote with such joy in my heart. And what's funny is that by the time I had them all sent out, I heard back from every single person.
Wow.
I did. I got calls, I got flowers. It was great. I got emails, I got messages back, I got texts, and it was just so incredible. And what's amazing is, so that was mid-November. Without asking for anything, by January 3rd, I had booked $3 million worth of business.
Oh, wow.
Gratitude is so powerful. And so when you ask about, some of those times that we go through that are turbulent, that, times are really down, that we feel really unhappy, or, we're going through these shifts, how do we get out of them? That was one way that I did. And, there have been all kinds of other ways that I have. And what's funny to me about one of my more recent periods of turbulence that I've gone through just in the past few months is that we have this philosophy of creating spaces of sanctuary. And this is very personal to me. That I began this by creating spaces of sanctuary for my own family. And so my own personal sanctuary, which I'm sitting in right now, you are here live with me, has really developed over the years. It's been probably 14, 16 years that I really have been working on this space and evolving it, and evolving what I do here, evolving how I perceive it, evolving the rituals and the daily practices, the philosophy that has really emerged from all of it. And so when I went through my most recent turbulent time, and you feel that very despondent, dark feeling, you think, oh, I've never felt this bad. No one's ever gone through this before. And I came home, and even though I didn't feel it, again, I didn't feel like doing it, I did the things that make me feel better. I grabbed my journal. Did I feel like writing? No, but I did. It's like a muscle, right? You exercise these muscles. I lit the candles. I put on the soft music. I put in a little stick of incense. I did all of the things that help me go from up here to down here. And you know what's funny? It still works like a charm. And because I have evolved this space so beautifully to fit every single thing that cradles me, my body, my spirit, my energy, it picked me up almost immediately. I did not stay down. At previous times when I've gone through these darker periods, sometimes it's weeks as I cycle through these things and I work through it and I process what's going on. But now with the support system that I've built for myself, it really happens much, much more quickly. And I find myself being so much more resilient. I can bounce back, I can respond, and sometimes it feels to me like I climb a ladder. Right? I get off of the ground level where the planes are taking off, and I climb the ladder, climb it, and I'm up at 30,000 feet, and all of a sudden I can see. And it's such a different way of looking at whatever it is that's bothering me, whatever it is that set me off, whatever it is that caused the turbulence, because from 30,000 feet, these things are quite small, and you're able to see them in relation to all of the other things in the landscape of your life. So that has also been just really remarkable to me. And I love it because while sanctuary is certainly a beautiful space, it always will be. For me, it's so much more than that. And it really, instead of growing out of a place of beauty and happiness, it really has grown out of a place of turmoil and sometimes terror. And it's grown out of frustration, and it's grown out of fear, and all of those things,
Yeah.
the nexus of that coming out of such, I don't know, things that are hard, right? Things that are tough. I just think that it's beautiful how something can bloom out of that. It reminds me of the plants and flowers that grow out of the rocks.
I think that's so well said, and it's so interesting. I've been doing some really deep work, and we'll chat about that more later. But
I look forward to that.
um, there's something called motivational cartography, which is really understanding
Oh,
what's deep within somebody's soul.
hmm,
And that's one of those things, as I've been doing some really deep work lately, that I found out that I just have this natural thing that makes me understand where
yeah,
people have come from, which is kind of why I wanted to talk about this timeline for you over this
yeah,
past 12 years that we've known each other.
hmm,
Because to me, we do have this cartography of our lives.
yeah,
And I do believe that the things that are the hardest, that cause us to have to pivot, that cause us to have to think about what our real motivations in life are,
yeah,
that's what really drives the growth and the change. And I think ultimately the satisfaction, because it's not a peaceful, easy journey
no,
to joy or
no,
to realization of
no,
comfort.
no, or meaning.
It all comes from the struggle, and you have
It
to go
does.
through that rocky, bumpy period in order for you to get there. So
Yeah,
you shared one of those, and you had the divorce and all
yep,
of that, but you've had a lot of those over the last 12 years. And if
hmm.
you were to just go back through and pick a few of those that were the most impactful, what were the big key lessons you got? What was it that happened, and what, if you care to share,
Hmm.
and what was the biggest lesson you got from that?
Well, you know that one of the hardest was when I was getting divorced and when my daughter started having seizures. And it just, I also lost an employee. Like there's just so much happening all at one time.
Yeah.
And when all of those things lined up, that is when the word sanctuary came to me. And I just really realized, actually with your help, that this was a great direction to really take my business as well, because it really folds into such a beautiful design philosophy. And it really is what I truly value and believe. So an expression, of my authentic self. And that is probably one of the most remarkable things that came out of a period of really deep and dark struggle. More recently, just kind of going back to those past few months, and we can pick a few in between as well if you still like, but, really realizing and remembering through a little traumatic event that happened in my family that I am a survivor of domestic violence. And I didn't realize that before. So sorry.
Mm. No,
Looking at
it's really
how
okay.
these things have teed me up to be exactly the person I am today, and so ready to shine a light for, how many other women are out there who have survived domestic violence? More than we would like to count.
Yes.
And when I think about how the message that I have for them of how our spaces can truly support us and help us heal, help us find our center, that's beautiful.
Hmm.
Really, really beautiful. So that one is still a little tender,
Huge.
still a little emotional. And
Of
I'm sifting
course.
through all of that, but it's also been, I actually wouldn't change that part of me, because I know that I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today. And I know that I wouldn't be doing some of the other exciting things that are going on in my life had I not had the push, the uncomfortableness. I had to sit in that uncomfortableness. I had to go back and process, things that I had buried for self-preservation, honestly, to get me through a period of time. But now it was time to resurrect them. It was time to go back and reprocess a lot of old memories and a lot of old traumas that had happened so that I can incorporate them into the person that I am now, so that I can bring, those shadows into the sun. How do we do that? And so that's been an interesting journey for me. And as you have mentioned that you have been doing some deep work, me too. And it hasn't been easy, but it has been important and it has been impactful. And I have been through probably a year that I feel stronger now than I've ever felt. I feel more empowered now than I have ever felt. And I feel more that I really don't need anyone else's permission to do the things that I want to do, and a sense of urgency to do them. Like, if not now, when? If not me, then who? So that is a really great place to be in, and to really gather about me my own mantle of agency, my own sense of, yes, I can do this, and knowing that I can. And when I look back, at the many, many, many events that have been so hard and transformational, I really can rest in the assurance that the resources that I need to sort things out, no matter what life lobs at me next, I will find them. I am certain that I will find them. So, assurance, resilience, these are the kind of things that have really arrived for me out of some of the hardest times that I have faced.
Yeah, and I don't think any of us will have the courage to go. I mean, you wouldn't choose these things to happen to you,
No,
but
no,
when you look back in the rearview mirror, you can say, if that had not happened for me, I would not be who I am today, and where I'm
correct.
going today would not
Yeah,
be the case.
exactly.
Yeah, you make different
Exactly.
choices,
Yeah.
and you may not. I've never really talked about this to a lot of people, but in this deep work I've been doing, some of the
Hmm.
things that I've discovered, which I know my history, and I
Of
grew up in a
course.
family of divorce as well, but my father was violent, and my
Mm.
mother's father was violent. So I
Oh,
saw this as a
gosh.
child. And so growing
Yeah.
up with that, I became a protector, and I was the
Mm.
youngest child out of two of us. But I was protecting the family. So a lot
Wow.
of my behaviors that I've learned over the years are
Yeah.
self-protection.
Yeah.
So I get where you're coming from. And a lot of the behaviors that I've been aware of for myself that I don't really want to continue at this point in my
Yeah.
life are probably the only way I could really understand that was to go back and address those and address the shadows like you talked about too.
I really respect you for doing that work, Gail. I didn't realize we were both going through that at the same time. That's interesting. It's
Well, this
just,
is
I don't
actually
know.
very short time. Yeah, it's a very short time frame, and I'll share more about that after we get off the call. But it's actually I've only worked on it for 2 weeks, and the
Oh, wow.
massive shift that I've experienced is
Hmm.
incredible.
Oh,
So,
wow.
how I would
I'm
relate
so
that to
happy for
you
you.
is
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to face that ugly, unpleasant fear, hurt, all the things that we went through so that we can put it behind us. And the only way to do it is you can't ignore it. You have to assimilate it.
Yeah.
You have to bring it back in.
Yeah.
So good for you for surviving all this stuff, but
Hmm.
the lessons you'll learn and what you'll share with others and help others with is going to be that much stronger as a result of it.
Yeah. It reminds me a little bit. I have kind of laughed and thought about it. It's a bit like you take all those experiences and you put them through the grinder and they become like mulch, right? It's like fertilizer and mulch. And now we're going to put those around the trees and
I
they
like
help
that.
make things stronger.
Yes,
They help
exactly.
fertilize and grow and, inform what comes next. It's funny that your experiences turned you into a protector. Mine turned me into a people pleaser. And, being a people pleaser for years, that is exhausting work. And you rarely actually worry about what you need. You're just constantly going through these gymnastics and yoga postures to try to please everyone around you, whether it's your clients or your family or your now ex-husband. I went through all these things where I was just trying to please everyone. And it's funny, because when I look back now and I think of some of the team members that I have lost over the years, both good and bad, some of the good ones, I actually think probably some of my people pleasing and sort of, that turns into a bit of codependence. It creates a very unhealthy dynamic, and it's one I was completely unaware of. But now I look back and I see that I'm like, wow, I think that it never is one person that ends a relationship. It always takes, a combination of things from both people. And there have been some that have ended for me that I have been puzzled. I'm like, how did that end? Why did that end? I love that person. Where did that come from? But now that I understand this tendency that I have had and have put that behind me, I can see more clearly how, I contributed to things being out of balance. I contributed to things being somewhat unhealthy. And it feels really good to look forward and realize I don't have to do that anymore.
And I think I would bring up here too, you talk about why those people aren't here in your life now, but they were there for a season. People
Yeah.
are there for seasons, and we have those seasons with people because there's a purpose for them to be there at that time.
Yeah, for sure.
Not the whole time, but for a certain period of time.
Yep. I
And
would agree
and
with you.
those are kind of like our touchstones along the way that
Hmm.
we have to work within this really strange little winding path,
Yeah.
and we're going to run into those big rocks on the side, and then it's going
Hmm.
to carry us over to the other side, and we're going to
Exactly.
go through this journey in our lives, and it's how we choose to show up for it and how we
Yeah.
choose to respond to it that determines maybe the happiness in our life.
Yeah. Truly.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. And so on this path, and of course,
Hmm.
with sanctuary being a driving force for you,
Yeah.
you went back and you got your master's.
I did.
I have a feeling you're probably going to get your PhD.
They keep calling me. So, I have a feeling
Well,
I will eventually cave. I love learning because it goes back to that thing we were just talking about, that elevated perspective. When you are
yes.
able to take knowledge of the ancients all the way forward and really use that to have that higher perspective, it's such a relief. I think we get so caught in the news cycles and the things that we're reading and the kind of dopamine hits of our phones and our computers and our tablets and the televisions and all that kind of stuff. I really love learning because it shuts all of that off, and it just lets me really dip into something that is so much bigger than myself, that beautiful body of knowledge in the world. I'm one of those little girls. When I was small, I used to love wandering through the library, and I would always think, all those books, gosh, if you could read all of these books, imagine the knowledge that you could contain. Well, I still feel that way. And, so it's fun to go back and take classes and learn about
Hmm.
whether it's philosophy or neuroscience and neuroaesthetics and neuroarchitecture or, depth psychology. Like, these things are all really interesting to me. I just signed up for a class in sacred geometry because I'm so interested in how these forms show up as symbols. We do see them and some of the archetypal, things that have come out of Jungian studies, but also we see them in our cathedrals. We see them in nature, we see them in flowers, we see them in water, we see them everywhere. And I love that. And I love to think about how these things that we see but don't necessarily recognize as impactful, they are impactful to us.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it is fascinating. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember which monk it was, a story from a long time past, but I remember seeing this video, and it was about this monk that believed that you could form ice crystals from your thoughts in
Hmm.
water.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yes, it's fascinating. And
Yeah.
I need to go look it up again because it was so interesting, because
Hmm.
that kind of ties in with all this, because I do believe that our thoughts are much more powerful than we even
Hmm.
realize.
Oh,
Um,
they
and
are.
yeah, absolutely. I was having a coaching session with somebody yesterday, and and we were talking about the fact
Hmm.
that where she was before the conversation started and where she was by the
Yeah.
end of the conversation were two different places.
Yeah.
And I was telling her, I said, "You're very in tune with yourself, so you know
Hmm.
that when you're resisting, when you're fearful, all of those
Hmm.
things, you're not able to attract what you want
Exactly.
because your thoughts aren't in the right place."
Yeah.
And so she realized that by the end of the call that she actually has people coming to her just because she thinks about them. And you've
Yeah.
experienced it. I have for sure.
Yeah. Oh,
I'll think
yeah,
about
for
somebody. I
sure.
might think about you, and I got a text
Mhm.
from you.
I
But
know.
it's just if you are connected, if you are
Hmm.
aware, if you have not shut yourself down because you're in the
Yeah.
negative headspace, then
Hmm.
the right things come to you more naturally.
Yeah. They do. It's one of the things that I love about Sanctuary because it helps me quiet my mind. I think our minds are very noisy a lot of the times. I think the world is even more
No.
noisy. And being able to have a place where you can really like quiet it down, it actually allows you to hear. And I feel like we all have answers within ourselves, guidance within ourselves. And, whether you actually do believe it comes from within you or, from an outside source, just to be quiet enough to be able to hear guidance, direction, affirmation, all of those sorts of things. It's so important.
It is. It really is. I was just having a conversation with another past client who will be back. I know she will. Just
Yeah.
like you, you've come back how many times? I don't know. But we were having this conversation, and she's been through a lot of health issues.
Yeah.
And her health issues have been so dramatic, not just hers,
Hmm.
but her sisters, another employee on her
Oh,
team. They
wow.
all went through cancer. And
Oof.
so sure, but her attitude and her way of thinking about things
Hmm.
is, she's very positive and she's just
I love it.
grateful. She's just
Yeah.
grateful. And that gratitude is serving her well.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
So, what are you the most proud of in your life?
It kind of is the theme of what we're talking about right now. It is that I've been able to
Mm.
take things that have been some of the most difficult moments of my life and turn them into a viable business model and philosophy, a true sense of meaning and purpose in what I do, and really a discovery of why I'm on the planet. I feel like I know what I'm here to do. And I know not a lot of people know that. Not a lot of people
Mhm.
have gotten to the point that they feel like this is what I'm here to do. A lot of people are asking that question. So, you know, I think that's it. Yeah.
Mm, I like that. Well, and you have a long runway ahead. So, what about the next
Yeah.
10 years? What will you have accomplished or contributed? Who are you going to
Well,
be?
I love that you asked that. I really would like to be able to share the message and understanding of Sanctuary on world stage. This is a message that is not just for my clients. This is not just for my family. It's not even just for my community. I think it's a real message of hope. I think it is solid strategies and coping mechanisms for living in the world today in a way that allows us to be sane and calm and happy and find meaning. So, to really do that is my overall goal. I really want to share with as many people as I can. So to that end, we have some big things planned right now. And actually just this next week, we're going to make a big move. My husband and I purchased a 5-acre property in Naples, and we are going to really create, a space of sanctuary there on those acres that we can share with other people. We are going to live there, certainly. My daughter Chloe will live there with us too. And there is a barn on this property that we are renovating into our design studio. And I know that we can also add to that workshop space, classroom space, perhaps a commercial kitchen for some future events. I think we can have retreats there. I think we can even have an outside amphitheater for Philip, my musician husband, for him to be able to share his music with the world. He
Love it.
so lovingly writes the soundtrack to Sanctuary. I just could not possibly have found a more perfect partner. I will tell you that for sure. So, thinking of being able to have something where we can bring people in and really have them be in Sanctuary. It is much easier to understand it, to comprehend it, and to be able to learn it while you are there. It is easier than just reading a book or taking a class online, although I'm intending that we will have both of those. So for people who can't come in, for those more live learning retreats. But I would like this to be a destination across the world. Like, I would like people to be lining up to come, and I think they will. I think this is a build it and they will come sort of a thing, because I think the world is hungry for this. And I think that I have an understanding that is very unique, even among designers. I think it's very unique the way that I look at this and share this. So that's really the big thing. We do have a property in North Carolina, and I see that. I love the mountains. It is such a perfect contrast to, the Gulf Coast of Florida. For us, it really is such a different form of sanctuary and such a beautiful one. I do think that there will be opportunity there for us also to do, more sharing than we do. Although right now it is just a destination for me to be able to fully unplug and rest. I rest there in ways that I don't rest anywhere else on earth. So, to continue to explore and learn about sanctuary, to be able to eventually get my doctorate, I would love that. So all of these things are goals for me. And I really would love to be able to meet some of the pivotal figures that are on the world stage that are bringing messages of peace, messages of, deeper contemplation and understanding. I would love that, because I think kindred spirits are few and far between. And I think it was Seth Godin who wrote one of his very pithy blog posts, and it was simply this: find the others. I love that.
I love
yes.
that.
I know. Isn't it great? Yes.
Yes.
I'm about it.
Yes. What is that? The Borg. I don't know if you were ever a Star Trek person, but
yes.
yeah, it's kind of reminds me of that a little bit. So
I
funny.
love it. Yes.
Well,
it is
I
funny.
think you're going to have an interesting journey ahead, and it's going to be fun watching with all of
Thank
this.
you. Thank you, Gail.
So
You
you've
really
been
were there
reading
at the very start of it.
well, and that's the fun part for me, because I get to see
yeah.
people's journey and
Sure.
where they go and where their resistances are, and
Yeah.
watch them break through
Yeah.
some of those and
hmm
really discover what it is that is going to drive that motivation forward,
Yeah.
because it is internal, and
I know.
you cannot do anything if you push it without it being internalized, truly
Yeah.
owned within you.
I know. You were very wise when you said that I would need to live sanctuary if I was going to sell it. You were completely correct. And you really set me on a journey of transformation that I never could have imagined. When you said that, I thought to myself, live sanctuary? That sounds amazing. I'm just going to get massages all the time and relax and have coffee with my friends and go to the beach. Yeah. That's not really what my life is and was,
No.
to be able to truly embody sanctuary while we are going through tough times and good times.
Yeah, ultimately we get through it all, right? We get through all of the things that come our way. It just feels sometimes as if it's impossible.
hmm
And the reality is we can get over it.
hmm I think it was Shakespeare
Um,
that said, it is our thinking that makes it so. So I think when
true,
we are
true.
convinced we're suffering, we are suffering. And
hmm
when we decide that we're actually not suffering and we can get that bigger perspective, we're not suffering anymore.
hmm True.
hmm
Well, you said you were reading a book, A Dictionary of Forgotten Words. Tell me about that book.
hmm
Why is this so impactful?
So good. I think it's because I love dictionaries and I love words. And
Mm,
this one was particularly about, it was written in the early 1900s. This is about a young woman whose dad was a lexicographer, who is a person who writes dictionaries and studies words. And he was involved in the creation of the Oxford Dictionary. And she would kind of attend these sessions with him where they would bandy about words. And it was her progress through, because she wasn't really allowed to participate. She was a young girl, but she started collecting words that she thought would be forgotten. and keeping them on little slips of paper. And she ended up having them all published in a volume. And it was all of the words that she was afraid would be forgotten. And I just loved that. I mean, it was just such a beautiful book. Parts of it were scary and upsetting. They included some of the suffering of the women who were marching for women's rights at that point and some of the things that they experienced, which actually I didn't know. So I learned a lot about history, but I learned a lot about what goes into the making of a dictionary and how the meaning of words were determined. And what's funny is that these slips of paper that people would submit to the people who were writing the dictionary of what they thought the word meant, there are still collections of these out there available from the Oxford Common Dictionary, the very first edition, and you can buy them on eBay.
Interesting.
I know.
Well, that will probably be showing up in your work and your writing that's coming as
Yes,
well.
yes.
Yeah.
You know it will. The other one that I'm reading right now that I am absolutely obsessed with is Your Brain on Art. Oh my gosh.
I like
This
that.
book is so incredible. The author of this is just really very well. She's a neuroscientist and she just knows a lot about the brain and how it perceives things. So I do love both fiction and nonfiction. My nightstand is stacked with, well, too many books. I shouldn't be reading so many at once, but yet here I am.
I do it too. It's pretty interesting. Most of mine are business books, but a lot of psychology books too, because I feel as
Yeah.
if a lot of the work that has to happen is up here.
It really does.
But
You know, it's funny. You are such a source of great books. One of the best books I've ever read in my whole lifetime came from you.
the one thing, right?
No,
Oh, which one?
The Obstacle is the Way.
Oh, The Obstacle. Oh, yes. Yes, that is a favorite of mine. Yeah, very good book. Oh, gosh. And I'll have to give you some more because I've been reading
Please
quite a
do.
bit lately. Yeah, when you have some time to read in your spare time.
I would love it. Give me a couple of weeks to move.
I think I'll give you a couple of months to get settled. How's that? Yeah, I
Great.
think it would make a big difference. Um, well, I think the other thing that's interesting too, I see you enjoying your life so much more because you're also, of course, you've got this wonderful, handsome husband of yours
I
that is
do.
just delightful. And then you have a lot of good friends, and you have
Yeah,
been doing a lot of travel,
I
and
have.
you have. And I think all of those things are leading to that fullness that allows you to be able to bubble up and enjoy and share,
hmm
not from a place of scarcity, but from a place of
hmm
abundance.
You're so right. You know, I took a class last year through the Harvard Medical School. Once I finished my degree, I was really missing the learning. And I took a class about human happiness.
Mm,
Fascinating. I didn't know that Harvard has the longest standing study on human happiness. It's been going on for 85 years.
wow,
Isn't that incredible?
that's
And
amazing.
so I know a psychiatrist who is currently running the study gave the class. And, you know, the entire thing, they covered so many wonderful topics. They covered
Mm,
loneliness. They covered so many things that people experience, the lack of ability to find meaning. But all of their findings, what it all comes down to at the end of the day, human connection, connection with
mhm.
other people. And it doesn't even have to be really deep connection. It can even be the light everyday ones like the barista at your Starbucks or the person who cuts your ham at the deli. You know, it's just the people you get to know, you connect with them even in light little ways. Human beings need connection. And isn't that
Yeah.
interesting? And so I think it's that balance then of like you need some contemplation time, you need some alone time so that you can kind of quiet, like we talked about before. But you need that so that then you can charge your battery back up to be able to go back out in the world or to invite people into your world so that then you can have that time of connection.
That makes me think about what as I age, I get to do
hmm
more of what I want to do. So I don't cook
hmm
anymore. So that's one of those
Go,
things
Gail.
that, yeah, I don't. And we go out every other night for dinner,
Uh-huh.
and we go to some of the same restaurants, so we know the same servers and the people
Yep.
on their team. And we have these nice chats with them, and they're
Hmm.
so happy to see us, and we're happy to see them. And it really started from just the idea of making sure that people feel seen.
Hmm.
And if you can help people feel seen, then they feel so much better about life, and they are happier, and they serve you better. You serve them better. And I was
Yeah.
thinking about it really started just because I thought, as I become older, I want to keep my mind sharp. So I want to
Hmm.
work on really learning people's names. And that's a way for me to keep sharp, is that I make a point to learn people's names.
Yeah.
And so that kind of started the whole thing. And then next thing you know, we're getting to the point where my husband, who's an extreme introvert, is having fun, enjoying getting to know people too.
Yeah.
And when you walk out of the restaurant and you end up hugging the server because that
Yeah.
server is somebody that you've been coming to for years now, and they like you and you like them, and it's just a
Yeah.
nice little exchange. They're never going to be your best friends, but
Yeah.
they just need to be seen. And
Exactly.
that connection can be light, like you said, and it can be deep, and all levels are important.
Hmm.
And that
They really are.
need that people have to be seen is just so crucial.
It is, it kind of reminds me what we were talking about just a little bit ago about those cards of gratitude. Each one of those was a way for the people who received them to be seen. And I think that's why it was so effective.
I love that. And it also restarted your business because, again, you were showing people that you cared about them as people. You weren't there to ask them for anything.
Exactly.
I've actually shared that story many times about the 50 cards, because
Have
I
you?
think I have many times, because people will say, well, how do I get my business going? And how do I get more clients? And I said, it's right there in front of you, because it's all the
Yeah.
people you already know are
Hmm.
the links that you need to
Hmm.
build the business that you want.
Oh,
It's
yes.
right there. You just need to keep in touch. So
Yeah,
it's a relationship building.
it's true.
Yeah. Well, we always have these interesting conversations, and I'd
We
love
do.
to hear
I
your
love
three
them.
takeaways for today. They're
You
always
know,
fun.
my takeaways for today are that it is our darkest days that bring our deepest learning. Also, that knowing someone over a long period of time, like I have known you, is the kind of connection that fuels a happy life. And also that we can really trust our knowing. You talked about it a little bit ago about kind of knowing that it's time, knowing who's calling, thinking of someone and kind of drawing them in, at that time, that energy current kind of goes out. But I think we can really trust that. I think it's not something you can measure. It's not something that you can scientifically prove, but yet it is there, and it is very real, and it is very impactful when you do trust it. And I think that it is something that can really guide us at times when we are unsure. And I love that.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that too. It's great.
Hmm.
Well, as always, it's interesting, and I'm sure we'll have more conversations. But
Hmm.
to me, these are the fun ones because we can get into the heart. It's not just the head.
Absolutely. Yeah, for
Hmm.
sure. I appreciate you, Gail.
Love you too.
Lisa Kahn's perspective reminds us that our darkest days often hold the keys to our deepest personal and professional evolution. Her incredible success is proof of what happens when you substitute fear with intentional human connection. We hope her wisdom on the power of quietude, the biology of happiness, and the courage to stop people-pleasing empowers you to pick up your own mantle of agency and trust yourself. Join us next week on the Creative Genius podcast when interior designer Susan Pfeffer shares her inspiring story of struggle and resilience. Many interior designers grapple with similar challenges. At Business Breakthrough Live, you can connect with other designers facing the same struggles you are. Join us in Denver from July 26th to 27th to connect with other designers, receive tailored business advice, and work side by side with our expert coaches. Learn more at thepearlcollective.com/BBL. Hear what Business Breakthrough Live attendees have to say.
I was feeling stuck in my business after a year and a half, and I really needed the tools and knowledge to take it to the next level. I have such a big vision for the company, but I needed the help, and I know I needed the help, and I knew that the Pearl Collective was the team for me to take my company to the next level.
It was fascinating to me to talk with people that understood this business and how we can pull levers to change what we're doing.
So when I heard about Business Breakthrough Live, it was a $1,000 non-commitment. So basically you pay the $1,000, and then if you attend the event, they write you a check for $1,000 back. And they held that promise. I opened a folder on the first day, there was a check for $1,000. And really all I had to do was just enjoy myself and have a good time.
On the first call, there was no hesitation at all about it.
Same.
To me, there was no risks. So just go, experience it, see what it's like.